interrupted by Victoria, sorry. So now whatever I was talking about is pretty much gone because I was sort of like in a stream listening for, the words from above. Um, Russia retaliates over U.S. sanctions. From my point of view, Russia is like, obviously it can mean other things, but it started out like relaying the story of what happened with Albert DeSalvio in the shelter. And that level of sadism, which does exist, believe it or not, because Philip, Jack the Ripper, he displayed the same type of thing, but hers was actually, I think, worse. Because I don't know if Phil does that stuff to people who have already had all these bad things happen to them in their lives. Um, like some people that are sadists and psychopaths like that, um, I really kind of prefer sadists when just talking about these people that set out to like destroy people's lives. I guess they can have psychopathy, but you have to have sadism in order to do that, not just psychopathy. Um, is they have to create something is wrong with the person, like there's a justification for it. Because if not, then they're just straight out insane people. Um, like any ego wants to believe that it's nice and right and all of that. Like an ego doesn't really hate itself and do that type and conduct that type of behavior. An ego that just straight out kind of like hates itself would just be depressed and would constantly blame itself for things. It wouldn't go out and find people that deserve to be victimized. So, in terms of Philip, in my case, he could probably perceive that I had sort of like a nice looking family and that I had money and or that I was like a cheater somehow and I like deserved to have that happen to me. Like he did a very, very similar thing that Albert DeSalvio did, where it's like they actually try to like make you think that they care about you and then they like take it away. It's really a bizarre thing that I can actually understand based on what I'm being told that I mean, clearly it's something coming from their childhood. Now I can't really express what I was just told, but um, like repeatedly, like engaging in a relationship with a woman that you know is married, okay, and she tells you, okay, at one of your hotel things, that she's in the process of getting a divorce. So, and that her quote unquote husband knows that she's does this and that she's seeing someone, but she doesn't want any paper record of like hotel rooms and things because of her divorce, right? And that she doesn't want her husband to know who it is that she's seeing. So then he purposely asks for the credit card in order to create a paper trail. And he defrauds me, okay? And after that specific incident where he defrauded me, because that's sort of like a game where they're smart and they like got money from you like you're dumb, um, that he began harping on me getting rid of my husband, like getting him out of the house, and he suggested actual murder. And like basically he was not going to see me again until I did that. And then as soon as Alfred left the house and that was reported to him, he starts saying to me, well, I'm not telling you to get rid of your husband, and I can't have a girlfriend, and I'm going to be on tour for 3 years. Like, the entire process was a sadist act. And the same thing with Albert DeSalvio, where, and it's always a rush, 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 rush to get you to do things. And, make sure you get the birth. Like, they're tricking you to do things. Like, it's almost like when a child throws a cup off of a high chair and the parent is forced to keep picking it up, where they're sort of like in this distorted thinking in their mind where they're causing you to do something. And so get the birth certificate, make sure you get the birth certificate to get a marriage license. And then as soon as I do that, she says, well, I don't want to rush you, okay? And then makes up another fight. Like, a lot of her behavior, I think, is made up in terms of mental illness, because that can't really be a coincidence where she's doing that. Like, it's almost like she's pretending that she has paranoia or something in order to conduct sadist acts. um, which I think that was kind of gone over in his previous and his wiki, that I think people might have thought that he was really a sadist, but he was kind of making up that he was mentally ill, or there was a question about that. A sadist is mentally ill, so it's kind of like you're trying to, you know, decipher, you know, apples, different um, kinds of apples, like, clearly someone doing that is mentally ill. I mean, a person doesn't go around raping and murdering women if they're not mentally ill. So, a mentally ill person could go into a delusion where they're tricking people into think they're mentally ill. You know what I mean? It could have been something like that. Um, because in order to even want to do that, you're mentally ill. Um, So that's what I get from Russia in terms of that, but it can also mean, I'm sure probably some innuendo could mean something funny. Like, there was a whole series of discussing these Russia people, because there's Russia people that are, not raping you and murdering you or destroying your lives. That's kind of like an extreme, but they're doing it for the same reason, because they're just getting off on manipulating people's emotions like a child would. And in that type of behavior, it's almost like that's the only impression they can leave on people is negativity. Like, they cannot affect people um, in like an inspirational way or a loving way or an educational way or an artistic way. So they're affecting people with negativity. um, so I mean, there's all kinds of books and everything about, from child psychologists and pediatricians, about really not giving into negative attention with children, because they begin to learn that. And especially if a child is not getting enough attention and is neglected, even if it's just the amount of attention the child thinks they should be getting, that they can do these negative things like a reactionary sadism. Um, so I would assume that after that happened with Philip, that he probably had a period of elation, um, based on what was observed with Albert, because it, there may have actually been an elation when they got Stephen out of the shelter too, because I think I recall her sort of being happy he was gone among other people. And this thing about kind of like hating anons and wanting them out of your space somehow. Maybe they should think about why the anons are threatening to them, and where that's coming from. As discussed on Facebook and at length, I I really feel that Albert only engages in relationships with females in order to conduct sadist acts and to like dominate them and to make them appear uncourtable to men, because I think that that is her main target, that she wants to actually seduce men and have a relationship with the man, and she's not able to do that. So part of narcissism, where it's not because of her and she needs to stay in psychotherapy, she could start thinking that every single man that she is rejected by is rejecting her because some other woman is gaining his attention. And that could be why she is doing those types of acts against people. And that's pretty much that. Oh, Mary Kelly. I would say alcohol, fetal alcohol syndrome for sure. But based on the facial features that time. No, I don't know that much about her now. I just basically heard about her and I know her name. But the photo, that's what children born with fetal alcohol syndrome look like. Um, and what was he using as an excuse? I don't know, because I didn't interview him then. And based on how he was behaving, other people might have a better idea of that, because he would have probably morphed more into that after 2011 and displayed more of that behavior. Um, he definitely had two sides to himself because of witness testimony, and because of his conning, he has a completely fake persona. And when he realizes that he's not tricking you, or that perhaps in his paranoia he thinks that you're tricking him somehow, he immediately has a change in his character. Like, you can tell he gets immediately angry. And usually psychopaths think that they're intelligent, and they're not. They just base intelligence on different things than people with morals do, where they base intelligence on like the ability to trick people, manipulate people's emotions, and sometimes gain money. And they think that people that are nice are stupid. Um, I would think that there's probably some deep-seated envy in regards to people that are actually intelligent, based on the reasons he gave for even picking me up in the first place, and then basically trying to like attack that type of thing. Um, Probably the same thing with Albert, where it's like something that she was envying about me. When she sort of got her claws into me, then she tried to start degrading that about myself, and like making negative comments about basically everything about me, but specifically my looks, and my happiness, and my ability to speak with other people and interact with other people, and my smile. Like, basically it was like everything about me. My ability to help other people when they want that. It's not like I'm going out trying to make me, let me help you. But definitely, she got some sort of false impression about my relationship with my mother, and that set her off, based on the things that she texted. But it was like, basically, she couldn't stop envying me. Every single thing about me she envied, and she became like more and more and more enraged, and she could never get enough of trying to harm me. Um, I'm completely convinced that if I did not leave that shelter and stay away permanently, say I went back, that she would try to pick me up again and throw me down. I'm completely convinced of that because it was a pattern over and over again that she was unable to control. And so, I mean, I definitely would recommend that no female engage in any type of romantic relationship with her, and don't go to any hotel rooms, don't go to the duck pond with her, don't go anywhere alone with her, because I do not think that she likes females very much. And like, I think that she actually likes men, and I don't think she really even cares if men are a pedophile. It's just that that's like an insult she throws out when if she thinks that some man is giving some woman attention. It's like the most, you know, it's very, very intricate with her. People can have different types of issues going on, and like, I think sometimes people give all these names for these different facets of issues because, like, Victoria has got, you know, five of the DSM, so it's kind of like a condition that has different facets, and it doesn't necessarily have to have all these terms. You kind of like explain what the person does. Like, I'm not really into the DSM at all, and I think that each person is an individual. And so it's like you have to go over their family history and, you know, their thoughts, and find out what's going on with them, and not be like, okay, well, we got to find out, is the person schizophrenic, are they bipolar, which already went over that I don't really believe in bipolar at all. And a schizophrenic is a human being, and like, in a mixed state of awakening, and you know, the delusion world. And bipolar is either major clinical depression, and that could be a creative person that has major clinical depression, especially here, or it could be someone who has mania, and they're calling it bipolar. Um, what's one of the other ones? Personality disorder. That's absolutely ridiculous. A person has a personality. You may not like it, but it doesn't mean it's a disorder. Um, Narcissism we went over. I think that narcissism can be at its core to cause some of these other issues. And it's kind of like, it's not just a blanket thing like someone's a narcissist. They're still going to have all these other things they have to deal with in terms of trying to change how their mind works and their distorted thinking. Maybe get into distorted thinking more, like, there's different types of someone can have a distorted idea, which is not exactly the same thing as distorted thinking. Let's separate it by that. That, say someone thinks that children have sex, or children have a sexuality. That would be a distorted idea, because it's not, it's one idea, it's not a sentence that the person distorts in their brain. It's like an idea that's distorted because it's incorrect. And they can have distorted thoughts mixed in with that. Like, a distorted thought, to me, is sort of how your brain interprets information, that can become distorted. And like, say someone's paranoid, usually it's you know, each individual thing is then distorted through a paranoid mind. Or say that you think that there's like bugs in the wall or something. Like, are they always in the wall? Like, is that a general idea that bugs are always in the wall? Or that's someone said something about Pink Floyd, and so you started thinking there was bugs in the wall. Um, I guess that's sort of how I would separate that. Um, Hopefully that makes sense what I'm trying to say. That a distorted idea, I could say, could come from parental upbringing. I mean, it's all coming from parental upbringing, but in terms of how did that belief system come about, like a distorted idea, like you use money, and then your actual, whereas distorted thoughts are sort of like even beyond what the delusion finds to be an idea, if that makes sense. Like a person with distorted thoughts would take information that the general populace um, doesn't distort into the same understanding that that person does. Um, Thought distortion, someone said. Someone said that make you sound schizophrenic. Sometimes when I'm not sure if it's kind of like me or him, I say someone said um, thought distortion. So if I look that up, that's what they're saying, the psychiatrist. They're agreeing with that. That someone can have thought distortion, but that's not the same thing as distorted ideas or a distorted belief system. I would think it would be easier to get people to sort of think about your idea if they just have distorted ideas as opposed to distorted thoughts. Um, shouldn't really say that. Um, Distorted ideas, some would say that that comes from, for some reason, some people, when they're children, that they take in information and they're processing it differently than other children do. Um, I would think you could also get distorted thoughts from having very unreliable, untrusting parents. That can cause distorted thoughts, for sure. Um, Clearly, if you think that children have a sexuality, then you have a distorted idea, or at least, if not distorted thoughts, you can have both. Um, you'd have to discuss more what that is. Like, say that you think, or someone asks you, what you think of this, that when women are walking down the street, if they are not wearing exercise clothes, then they're walking down the street because they want people to pick them up, or they're like doing that to show off. That would be a distorted thought, because I'm not sure that that idea comes from just an idea. If you're also saying that children have sex, it sounds like that you have distorted thoughts, and that that is kind of where that came from. Um, or you could say that the person who said it um, has distorted thoughts, and then the person that was asked about it that agreed with it has a distorted idea. If you wanted to try to get into that much, maybe philosophy side of it, but you can sort of tell if someone has distorted thoughts when they're having psychotherapy, because it's not just like one idea. It's kind of like their way of thinking is distorted, and it sort of has to be explained to everyone, or it has to be explained to your psychotherapist, and then the psychotherapist can get into where that thought perception is coming from, um, and sort of help you work through that. Like, sometimes you just need to be told that something's incorrect, and just be like, say this thing about the children, just go, look, it's incorrect. um, it's not that you're a bad person, it's just that somewhere along the way someone taught you, whether purposely or inadvertently, that incorrect belief. So you need to tell yourself that it's incorrect, and maybe go over in your mind why you would think that. That type of thing. Um, that takes a lot of acceptance. Like, you have to not be a narcissist, really, to accept that type of counsel. Um, like, I think if 2/3 of the planet, sat down and said, let's get rid of the monetary system, and then you have a third or less of the planet going, that's crazy. That maybe the 1/3 or the less is having some issue with distorted ideas and beliefs and distorted thoughts. But that's something to think about. Um, I hope to be open about changing my thoughts and ideas about things, but not certain things. Certainly not Yahweh's Holy Bible. Unless someone was sort of like, do you think you could be interpreting this part of it wrong? Or do you think, that's based on a bias on your part or something? But not the fact that God is real, and definitely not that we're not supposed to be using money, and definitely not that we're not supposed to have slaves. I don't think there's a person alive who's going to convince me that that's a correct belief. Um, I'm not sure really what my attitude was about doing things just to do it, but I try to, but sometimes I do things that I don't personally believe in to be doing. Um, it's hard to explain. Like, I do, but I don't believe in it. It's like a double thing that I don't really want to get into here, but when you're sort of like contemplating in your mind the teaching and the Bible and society and sense and nonsense, and helping versus enabling, and equality, and right and wrong, from my point of view, then it becomes sort of complicated sometimes. It's kind of like a mix that goes on, where, like, sometimes I just do things out of just outright, just straight out, you know, um, submissive to my father's servant. And then other times it's kind of like, and I would like to think that it's him sort of explaining it to me in terms of psychology. Sometimes it's sort of like it's not really, helping. And then you sort of get into a thing about mental competency and all of that. So it becomes, it becomes a struggle, I guess I would say, in terms of what's the righter thing, I guess is what I would say. Which thing is right, or which stance do you want to take? And being pushed to the point where your stance is like, someone else is being harmed or someone else is being neglected, then of course then your stance has to kind of unfortunately be manipulated by other people because they have no stance, if that makes sense. That happens. I'm sure that's happening all over this land piece, actually, as we speak, with this program that we're trying to do here. That it's, it becomes like, in a sense, you have to really have no ego. Like, you have to really not care that people are manipulating you or taking advantage of you or using you when there's a need for something. And, like, unfortunately, there's gonna be people that are just not really you, they're not up to par. And there's nothing that you can really do about that. You just have to do what's right, I guess, and then figure out what that is. Nice. Do what's right, then figure out what that is. That sounds like father for sure. Um, I guess that's probably that on that. That definitely sounded like him. Um, so, that's pretty much what goes on here. Um, I guess we're still doing mental impairment versus just straight out psychopathy tests on the TV in terms of mostly the populace, I think, at this point.